You have probably never heard of Maharaja Duleep Singh. But you have almost certainly heard of what he was forced to give away. The Koh-i-Noor diamond. The mountain of light. 105 carats of brilliance, once the size and weight of a hen's egg. A gem so legendary that it was said to carry a curse, that whoever owned it would rule the world, but only if they were a woman. Men who possessed it, the legend warned, would meet misfortune. Duleep Singh was a boy of 10 when he signed it away. He was surrounded by grown British men in the Lahore fort, told to place his mark on a document he could barely understand. He would spend the rest of his life trying to undo what was done to him that day. He would fail at nearly everything he attempted. He would die in a Paris hotel room, penniless and alone. His body would be returned to England, not to the India he had tried so desperately to reclaim. And the diamond he surrendered as a child still sits in the Tower of London, polished and displayed, a symbol of an empire that consumed everything it touched. This is the story of that boy. Of what was taken from him. Of what he tried to reclaim. And of what the British Empire did to a child who had never asked to be a king. Duleep Singh was born on September 6, 1838, in Lahore, the capital of the Sikh Empire. He was the youngest son of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the Lion of Punjab, a man who had forged one of the most powerful kingdoms in the Indian subcontinent. His mother was Maharani Jind Kaur, Ranjit Singh's youngest and favorite wife. Ranjit Singh died the following year, in 1839. Duleep Singh was barely a year old. The empire his father had built began to fracture almost immediately. Assassinations. Court intrigue. Factionalism. One ruler after another took the throne, only to be killed or deposed. By 1843, after the violent deaths of Maharaja Sher Singh and Raja Dayan Singh, the 5-year-old Duleep Singh was placed on the throne. He was a child king. His mother ruled as regent, with fierce intelligence and a deep understanding of Punjab's politics. The British, however, saw her not as a capable ruler but as a dangerous obstacle. They wanted the Sikh Empire. And they had the machinery to take it. The First Anglo-Sikh War broke out in 1845. The British had been garrisoning troops around the border, acts of naked aggression that provoked the Sikhs into war. They had also cut secret deals with leading members of the Sikh court, persuading them to betray their king and weaken his army. The Sikhs lost the war. On March 9, 1846, the Treaty of Lahore was imposed upon the 7-year-old Maharaja Duleep Singh. The British were given full authority to direct and control all matters in every department of the state. The boy king was to be protected. He was also to be controlled. But the British wanted more than control. They wanted the kingdom itself. So they engineered a second war. The Second Anglo-Sikh War began in 1848. By March 29, 1849, the Sikh Empire was no more. Punjab was annexed to British India. Duleep Singh, now 10 years old, was removed from the throne. He was to be the last ruler of the Sikh kingdom. The Koh-i-Noor was taken from him as part of the treaty. It was not a gift. It was not compensation. It was theft. The boy king was surrounded by grown British men and told to sign away his future. He had no choice. He was 10 years old. What happened next was not conquest. It was erasure. The young Maharaja was separated from his mother, Maharani Jind Kaur. She was imprisoned. He was taken away from Lahore to Fatehgarh, in what is now the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. He was placed under the guardianship of Army Surgeon Dr. John Spencer Logan and his wife. He was given a Bible. His language, culture, religion were cut off from him, historian Peter Bance has written. He became a ward of the British. And here he could be molded to how the British wanted him to be. They molded him carefully. He was taught English ways. He was given an English education. He was dressed in English clothes. And in 1853, at the age of 15, he was baptized as a Christian. He became the first South Asian king to convert to Christianity. The British celebrated this as a victory. They had taken a Sikh Maharaja and turned him into a Christian gentleman. In May 1854, he arrived in England. He was introduced to Queen Victoria at Buckingham Palace on July 1, 1854. The Queen was charmed. She described the young Maharaja in her journal as 16 and extremely handsome. He has a pretty. She treated him like a favorite son. He was invited to every royal gathering. He holidayed with Prince Albert and Queen Victoria. He became the ideal party piece that every lord and lady wanted at their event. For a decade, Duleep Singh enjoyed the fruits of his position. He had a lavish lifestyle. He hunted and shot with the royal family. He traveled across Europe. In private, he had become the quintessential English aristocrat. In public, he still presented himself as an Indian prince. He was a contradiction. He was a performance. He was a boy who had been taken from his home, stripped of his faith, and remade into something the British could display. But the machinery of his erasure had a flaw. It had forgotten about his mother. After 13 years of separation, Maharani Jind Kaur was released from prison. She was no longer regarded as a threat to the British Empire. She joined her son in England. And she began to remind him of what he had lost. She was now a frail old lady. But she was still fierce. She spoke to him of his kingdom. She spoke to him of his Sikh identity. She spoke to him of the father he had never known. The machinery of erasure began to crack. By the 1870s, Duleep Singh was financially in trouble. He was living on a pension from the British government. He had 6 children to support. His lavish lifestyle had left him heavily in debt. He began to question the government about his land and property back in India. He claimed the annexation of Punjab had been done in an underhand way. He wrote endless letters to the government, seeking compensation for his lost land. He received nothing. Then his mother died. 2 years later, in 1864, he married Bamba Muller, a woman of mixed German and Ethiopian heritage who had been born in Cairo. They had 6 children. He moved to Elveden Hall in Suffolk, a grand estate in the English countryside. He was, by all outward appearances, a successful English gentleman. But he was not content. He was not at peace. He was a king without a kingdom. A Sikh who had been baptized a Christian. An Indian who had been raised as an Englishman. He had lost his crown, his faith, his freedom, his identity. And he wanted it all back. On March 31, 1886, Duleep Singh took his boldest step. He set sail for India along with his family. He told the British he would revert to the Sikh faith and reclaim part of his land. He was intercepted at Aden, in Yemen, and arrested. He was forced to return to Europe. The British would not let him go home. He never saw India again. He spent his final years in Paris, styling himself as the implacable foe of the British people. He had re-embraced his childhood Sikh faith. He had rebelled against the British government. He had fought to recapture his lost kingdom. He had failed. On October 22, 1893, at the age of 55, Duleep Singh died in Paris. He died penniless and alone. His last wish was to be buried in India. It was not honored. He was buried at Elveden Hall, his former family residence in England. His children survived him. They carried his legacy. Princess Sophia Duleep Singh became a prominent suffragette, fighting for women's right to vote in Britain. Princess Bamba Sutherland became the last living member of the family. But there are no direct descendants of Maharaja Duleep Singh today. The line has ended. The Koh-i-Noor diamond remains in the Tower of London, part of the British Crown Jewels. It was surrendered under the Treaty of Lahore in 1849. It was not stolen, the British have always insisted. It was given. By a 10-year-old boy who had no choice. Later in life, Duleep Singh would attempt to take legal action against the British over their conduct. But living in exile in England, he was thwarted at every turn. He eventually died a broken man. His story is not merely the story of a diamond or a treaty. It is the story of how the British Empire perfected the art of dispossession without spectacle. It is the story of a boy who grew into a man forever chasing a home that no longer existed. The machinery that destroyed Duleep Singh was not crude. It was sophisticated. It did not kill him. It erased him. It took a 5-year-old king and turned him into a colonial exhibit. It took a Sikh Maharaja and baptized him a Christian. It took an Indian prince and made him an English gentleman. And when he tried to reclaim what had been stolen, it stopped him. It arrested him. It sent him back to Europe to die. Duleep Singh was not defeated on a battlefield as an adult king. He was undone as a child. Stripped of an empire before he could understand what ruling truly meant. Turned into a polite colonial exhibit far away from the land he was born to govern. He was barely 5 when he inherited the Sikh Empire. Barely 10 when he lost it. By 11, he had signed away the Koh-i-Noor. By 15, he was on a ship to Britain, escorted by men who would carefully reshape his faith, his identity, and his loyalties. What followed was a life of lavish houses, royal friendships, private griefs, and public silence. It looked comfortable from the outside. It was anything but. In the end, Duleep Singh was not a hero. He was not a villain. He was a boy who had everything taken from him and spent the rest of his life trying to get it back. He failed. He died in a Paris hotel room, far from the land he had tried so desperately to reclaim. His body was returned to England. His diamond remains in the Tower of London. His kingdom is divided between 2 nations. The machine that destroyed him did not stop because it had a conscience. It stopped because the empire that built it eventually fell. But the boy who was destroyed by it has never been forgotten. His story is still told. His descendants still fight for his remains to be returned to India. His diamond is still claimed by 3 nations. He is still, more than a century after his death, demanding what was taken from him. This is the story of Maharaja Duleep Singh. The boy king who lost a diamond and his identity. The last ruler of the Sikh Empire. The Black Prince of Perthshire. The man who died fighting for a home that no longer existed. The machine doesn't stop because it has a conscience. It stops because someone decides to turn it off. Duleep Singh tried to turn it off. He failed. But he never stopped trying. This is what we do at Throne Unknown. We uncover the stories power tried to bury. If you want more, subscribe. Hit the bell. And remember, the boy king lost his diamond. But he never lost his fight.